This is the end of the Earth, home to the harshest environment on the planet. Sailors shout in astonishment as they come face to face with a creature that has existed only in legend for centuries. So how can a half-ton creature remain completely invisible to modern technology for nearly 20 years? When the lines begin to come up, one of the hooped toothfish, a 30-kilogram animal, has acquired a passenger. Something is attached to it and won't release it as the line ascends through the water column. 9 crew members spend 2 hours maneuvering the animal toward the surface, working it into a cargo net, hauling it aboard using a crane. By the time it clears the water, it's dying. The pressure change alone would be fatal, the temperature change irrelevant beside it. The footage, shot by Bennett himself and later sold to a production company in Auckland, shows something that does not look like a real animal. It looks like a prop from an era when people still believed sea monsters were plausible. They weigh it frozen, still partly encased in the ice block it's been stored in. 495 kilograms. A correction later accounts for the ice content, around 470 kilograms of actual squid. Either figure makes it the heaviest invertebrate ever documented in the scientific record. The announcement came on February 22, 2007. Fisheries Minister Jim Anderton flew to Wellington to greet the squid in storage. Scientists described it as worth many millions of dollars in research value. News went global within hours. And here is where the story becomes genuinely strange. The most significant discovery in the history of colossal squid biology, the only large, complete adult specimen science ever obtained, wasn't caught by researchers. It wasn't found by a submersible, attracted by scientific bait, or detected by acoustic survey. It climbed onto a commercial fishing hook because it was eating somebody else's toothfish and wouldn't let go. The most advanced marine science programs in the world combined couldn't have planned this catch. It just happened. In the 18 years since, it hasn't happened again in the same way. The species had already existed in legend for centuries before it had a Latin name. Ancient Norse sailors described the kraken, a sea monster large enough to be mistaken for an island, and while the mythology expanded to include ship destruction that no squid's anatomy could support, the kernel of genuine observation buried in those centuries of exaggeration is now clear. Something very large and very tentacled was occasionally visible at the surface, and it terrified people for good reason. When Guy Coburn Robson formally described Messanichoteuthis hamiltoni in 1925, naming it after British naturalist James Eric Hamilton, he was working from 2 arm crowns recovered from a sperm whale's stomach at the Falkland Islands. Not a living animal, not even a fresh corpse. 2 pieces of arm from inside a predator's digestive system. For 30 years, those fragments were the entire scientific record. The creature existed in legend long before science had its measure, and science has spent the century since trying to catch up. In 2003, a sub-adult female was caught floating at the surface in the Ross Sea by the same vessel, the San Aspiring, the same fishery, 4 years before the 2007 catch. That animal weighed about 300 kilograms and stretched 5.4 meters total length. When the 2007 specimen arrived, weighing 495 kilograms, it confirmed that colossal was an understatement. The colossal squid isn't a giant squid. The confusion between the two has persisted since at least the 1950s, when partial specimens recovered from whale stomachs were initially misidentified as Architeuthis. The distinction matters because the 2 animals aren't just different species. They're from entirely different biological lineages, living in entirely different worlds, with entirely different levels of scientific accessibility.
Giant squid, Architeuthis dux, the sole species in the family Architeuthidae, range across the temperate Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans. Specimens have been studied from carcasses washing ashore in Norway, Spain, and New Zealand. Living animals have been observed and filmed near Japan's Ogasawara Islands on multiple expeditions. On September 30th, 2004, Tsunemi Kubodera and Kyoichi Mori captured the first photographs of a live giant squid in its natural habitat, 900 meters down off the Bonin Islands, using a remote camera system suspended from surface floats on a 1,000-meter line. The results ran in the Proceedings of the Royal Society B in December 2005. In December 2006, Kubodera's team filmed a live adult at the surface off the same islands. In 2012, working with NHK, Discovery Channel, and scientist Edith Widder's Medusa camera system, a submersible captured the first footage of a giant squid in its deep natural habitat. Since then, additional sightings have accumulated. Giant squid have been filmed alive in situ across multiple expeditions, on multiple occasions, in at least 3 ocean basins. The colossal squid has been filmed alive exactly once, in March 2025, at 600 meters depth near the South Sandwich Islands. The animal in that footage was 30 centimeters long. No adult colossal squid has ever been filmed alive, anywhere, at any depth. Giant squid belong to the family Architeuthidea. Colossal squid belong to Cranchidae, the glass squids, a family characterized by a fluid-filled coelomic cavity, partially translucent tissues, and a buoyancy mechanism built on stored ammonium ions rather than a gas bladder. The colossal squid is the only Cranchidae member to carry hooks on its arms and tentacles. It's the only Cranchidae to grow to enormous size. It lives exclusively in the circumantarctic Southern Ocean, a circumpolar distribution around Antarctica, extending toward the southern tips of Africa, South America, and New Zealand's subantarctic waters, but always in the cold. Always in the Southern Ocean. Giant squid females reach maximum masses around 275 kilograms, with typical depths between 300 and 1,000 meters in temperate seas at 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. They're longer in total length, females exceeding 5 meters in the mantle, but substantially lighter than their colossal relatives. The colossal squid is shorter but catastrophically heavier. Te Papa's comparison is direct. The 2007 colossal squid weighed roughly double the heaviest documented giant squid. Giant squid is the catalogued world, the filmed world, the understood world, the animal that exists at accessible depths in reachable waters. Colossal squid is the unmapped territory beyond the edge of that map. The Ross Sea. To understand why we still can't find this animal on demand, the geography has to land with its full weight. The Ross Sea is the southernmost sea on Earth, a deep embayment of the Southern Ocean bounded to the south by the Ross Ice Shelf, approximately 320 kilometers from the South Pole at its furthest reach. Standard encyclopedic sources give its area at roughly 960,000 square kilometers, about 1.5 times the area of Texas. It's covered by ice for most of the year. In the western portions, ice concentrations persist year-round through the austral spring, clearing only briefly in January due to local heating. Access for surface vessels is restricted to a narrow seasonal window, and even within that window, ice remains a constant operational variable. The Ross Ice Shelf, which forms the sea's southern boundary, is the world's largest ice shelf, roughly the area of France and approximately 500 miles wide. At its face, it rises between 15 and 50 meters above the waterline as a sheer cliff of compressed ice. Below the waterline, it extends hundreds of meters further. Britannica gives the shelf's average thickness at around 79 degrees south latitude as approximately 330 meters.
Southward, where the shelf thickens toward the continent, it exceeds 700 meters, deeper below the waterline than the Empire State Building is tall above it. The sea surface beneath the shelf is in permanent darkness, year-round, at temperatures near the freezing point of salt water. The continental shelf underlying the Ross Sea is itself unusually deep, averaging around 500 meters, far below the world average of 130 meters, depressed over millions of years by the repeated advance and retreat of glacial ice sheets across the sea floor. Beyond the shelf break, the seafloor drops to abyssal depths. Adult colossal squid have been documented at depths of 1,500 to 2,000 meters, and possibly deeper still. Water temperatures. Near the surface and through much of the water column, the Ross Sea consistently runs near negative 1.9 degrees Celsius. That isn't moderately cold. It's cold at the physical limit of cold liquid. Salt water stays liquid at that temperature only because dissolved ions suppress the freezing point. Here's the operational physics problem. Lithium-ion batteries, which power virtually every autonomous underwater vehicle and remotely operated vehicle used in modern deep-sea research, lose significant capacity at sub-zero temperatures. Internal resistance increases, discharge efficiency drops. The operational window before a vehicle must surface shrinks compared to what manufacturers specify for temperate conditions. Ice coverage at the surface means vehicles can't always return directly to the parent ship. The logistics of deploying and recovering equipment through pack ice hundreds of kilometers from any port in conditions that actively degrade electronics and stress mechanical systems create a category of difficulty distinct from simply going deep. The Mariana Trench is nearly 11,000 meters deep, 5 or 6 times deeper than where adult colossal squid live. Vehicles have reached the trench bottom, including a crewed submersible, in 2019. The apparent paradox, we've reached the deepest point in any ocean but can't film an adult colossal squid, dissolves when you consider what the Ross Sea actually imposes. Not extreme depth, but extreme cold, extreme ice, extreme remoteness, and an animal that has evolved specifically to detect and avoid anything approaching it from above. Depth is an engineering problem. Physics and geography are harder. Set aside the geography for a moment and consider what the 2007 specimen actually was, biologically. 495 kilograms of soft tissue, fluid, and 2 chitinous structures. The gladius, a thin, flexible internal pen, the vestigial remnant of an ancestral shell formed from chitin, runs through the interior of the mantle but provides no rigid structural support in the way a vertebrate skeleton would. The beak, 2 paired chitinous mandibles, the lower overlapping the upper, hard enough to slice through bone, surrounded by muscular tissue. Beyond those 2 components, the entire animal is muscular hydrostat, tissue that holds shape through internal pressure and continuous muscle tension without any rigid framework beneath it. How does an animal of this mass avoid collapsing in the water column? Through the glass squid family's solution, which is elegant and slightly disconcerting at scale. Cranchidae store ammonium chloride solution in a fluid-filled coelomic cavity. Ammonium chloride is less dense than seawater. Pack enough of it into a body cavity and the buoyancy it provides offsets the weight of the musculature, allowing the animal to hover neutrally in the water column without constant swimming effort. This is the glass squid family's answer to the problem fish solve with a gas bladder. The name glass squid derives from the partial translucence this mechanism confers. Ammoniated tissues have a lower optical density than fully muscular tissue. In juveniles, the translucence is striking. The 30-centimeter colossal squid filmed in 2025 looks, in Kat Bolstad's words, like a delicate glass sculpture, with fins of such fine musculature they are barely visible. Adults bulk up enough that they're no longer visually transparent, but the mechanism persists. A squid approaching 500 kilograms, chemically buoyed by stored ammonium chloride solution, hovering in the water column at 1,500 meters without expending significant energy. The metabolic implications of this are extraordinary. Rosa and Zeibel published their energetics analysis of the colossal squid in the Journal of the Marine Biological Association in 2010. Their estimated mass-specific routine metabolic rate at 1.5 degrees Celsius, 0.036 micromoles of oxygen consumed per hour per gram of tissue. Projected daily energy consumption, approximately 45 kilocalories per day. Estimated daily prey requirements, around 30 grams of fish. For a 500 kilogram predator, an animal that outweighs most adult humans by a factor of 6 needs roughly 1 ounce of food per day. Rosa and Zeibel concluded accordingly that the colossal squid isn't a voracious, high-speed hunting machine. It's an ambush predator, what they called a sit-and-float predator, that waits for prey to come within reach rather than actively pursuing it across the water column. Its hooks aren't the tools of a creature that chases, they're the tools of something that allows prey to come close enough and then makes departure impossible. The blood chemistry is a separate impossibility. Every cephalopod, squid, octopus, cuttlefish, uses hemocyanin rather than hemoglobin to transport oxygen. Hemocyanin is copper-based. It binds oxygen using copper atoms, where hemoglobin uses iron. When oxygenated, hemocyanin turns blood pale blue. In near-freezing Antarctic water, where iron-based hemoglobin systems face increasing difficulty releasing bound oxygen to tissues, hemocyanin behaves differently. Cold water cephalopods have evolved hemocyanins with modified binding characteristics, altered oxygen affinity, and release properties that allow continued respiratory function near 0 degrees Celsius, in the specific chemical environment of cold, salty, pressure-compressed Southern Ocean water. The colossal squid runs on chemistry that has been iteratively modified for conditions that would make most other animals non-functional. And it isn't even certainly the largest one alive. The 2007 specimen had a lower rostral beak length of around 42.5 millimeters. Beaks recovered from sperm whale stomachs have measured up to 49 millimeters. Te Papa's own assessment of that gap is direct. A colossal squid with a 49 millimeter beak could weigh somewhere between 600 and 700 kilograms. The animal we have documented isn't the maximum. The maximum has been inside whale stomachs, digested down to the one structure that resists digestion. We have the beak. We don't have the squid. Now the hooks. The colossal squid's arms, all 8 of them, carry a double row of fixed hooks along their middle sections, framed by rows of toothed suckers before and after. This configuration already separates it from every other member of the Cranchidae family, which carry no hooks at all. But the tentacle clubs go further. Each tentacle ends in a club, the expanded distal section used for capturing prey, and on the manus, the central portion of each club, sit 2 rows of rotating hooks. 22 to 25 in total, per Te Papa's account from their examination of the 2007 specimen. These hooks are mechanically distinct from the fixed arm hooks. They can swivel in any direction within the club tissue. Once embedded in prey, they don't simply pull out when the prey struggles. They rotate, dig deeper, and hold. The only exit from a colossal squid's tentacle grip requires the prey to tear itself free, which means tearing through whatever the hook is embedded in. Compare this to the giant squid. Architeuthis uses toothed suckers throughout. Suckers lined with serrated chitinous rings that engage prey through suction and tooth penetration. Effective, well documented, leaving circular scars on sperm whale skin. But not rotating hooks. The colossal squid's tentacle clubs are qualitatively different. A grip mechanism designed for a predator that relies on the prey's own movement to deepen the hook's purchase. In the Ross Sea toothfish fishery, this strategy is demonstrably effective. The 30-kilogram toothfish attached to the San Aspiring's longline in February 2007 wasn't an outlier. Colossal squid routinely attack fish already hooked on fishing gear, which is the only reason we've gotten our hands on more than fragments. Sperm whales are the other side of this equation, and the scale of what they reveal is staggering. Physeter macrocephalus, male individuals reaching 16 to 18 meters and up to approximately 50 metric tons, dives to depths exceeding 2,000 meters in Antarctic waters, staying submerged for more than an hour. The animal uses echolocation to locate prey in complete darkness. biosonar clicks reaching around 230 decibels at source, among the loudest sounds produced by any animal. At those depths, in the cold, what sperm whales find in quantities that dwarf every other food source in the Southern Ocean is Messonychoteuthis hamiltoni. The evidence comes from stomach contents accumulated across decades. Malcolm Clark's foundational 1980 study, Cephalopoda in the Diet of Sperm Whales of the Southern Hemisphere, established the baseline. Sperm whales in Antarctic waters consume extraordinary quantities of cephalopods, and the chitinous beak, the one part that resists digestion, accumulates in the whale's second stomach chamber as a durable tally of past meals. Subsequent research, including work by Cherrell examining stranded and collected whale stomachs, refined the picture. Colossal squid beaks represent roughly 14% of the total cephalopod beak count found in Antarctic sperm whale stomachs. But they represent approximately 77% of the total biomass consumed. 14% of the count, 3/4 of the meat. One colossal squid outweighs dozens of the smaller squid species these whales also consume. For a sperm whale hunting in Antarctic waters, Messonychoteuthis isn't a supplement to the diet. It's the diet, by weight. Sperm whale skin carries circular marks from squid sucker rings, documented scars consistent with encounters where the prey fought during capture. Whether the rotating tentacle hooks produce specific linear gashing on whale skin or within whale tissue is harder to confirm precisely from published scar analysis literature. But the structural reality of the encounter isn't in doubt. A 500-kilogram squid equipped with rotating tentacle club hooks and fixed arm hooks is being swallowed by a 50-ton predator. And the anatomy of both parties makes passive capture implausible. The whale must overpower the squid. The squid, in its final moments, hooks into whatever it can reach. We have never seen this happen. Not once. This is the most documented, undocumented event in ocean biology. We have thousands of colossal squid beaks across decades of whale stomach analysis. We have scar tissue recorded from both species. We have metabolic models, depth profiles, fishery encounter data, and population estimates built from beak counts and biomass calculations. We have everything except footage of what actually occurs when these two animals meet in the dark at 1,500 meters in the Southern Ocean. The evidence of the fight is everywhere. The fight itself is unwitnessed. Sperm whale sonar, in theory, should locate a 500-kilogram animal in open water from considerable distance. The sound physics aren't in doubt. What the colossal squid can't do is hear that sonar clearly. Squid staticists respond to low-frequency sounds. The high-frequency echolocation clicks the whale uses for prey detection fall outside what the squid's sensory apparatus can process with any precision. The whale can find the squid acoustically. The squid can't hear the whale coming. It has something else instead. The eyes. The 2007 specimen's eyes measured 27 centimeters in diameter in their partly collapsed post-mortem state. In life, Tapapa estimates the eyes were probably around 30 centimeters, roughly the diameter of a soccer ball. Tapapa's own characterization: the colossal squid possibly has the largest eyes that have ever existed in the history of the animal kingdom, not just among living species, in the entire fossil and living record. Dan Eric Nilsson, Eric Warrant and colleagues published A Unique Advantage for Giant Eyes in Giant Squid in Current Biology in 2012, a paper that ran optical modeling on what a 27-centimeter eye could actually detect below 600 meters depth, where sunlight never penetrates. The finding wasn't intuitive. Eyes this large aren't primarily useful for spotting small prey at close range. A much smaller eye handles that task adequately. The aperture is far beyond what hunting lanternfish or small squid requires. What that aperture is calibrated for, the model showed, is detecting the faint, diffuse bioluminescent disturbance produced by a large animal moving through deep water plankton. When a sperm whale swims through a plankton layer in the deep ocean, It disturbs luminescent organisms, the microscopic animals and bacteria that produce cold light, creating a spreading glow in the water around and ahead of it. That glow isn't bright. It's distributed, subtle, not directional in any obvious way. A small eye can't extract a useful signal from it. A 27-centimeter eye, according to Nielsen's model, can detect a sperm whale approaching through its bioluminescent wake at more than 120 meters distance, around 390 feet in total darkness. The colossal squid can't hear the whale's sonar coming, but it can see the whale's approach glow arriving 120 meters ahead of the whale itself. The eye isn't a passive sense organ made large for the sake of low-light prey detection. It's the primary defensive weapon of an ambush predator that can't outswim its predator on physical speed alone. A 2013 paper in BMC Ecology and Evolution disputed the evolutionary framing, arguing that once body size is properly accounted for, colossal squid eyes aren't disproportionately large beyond what allometric scaling would predict. Nielsen's team disputed that interpretation in response. The argument about evolutionary driver remains active in the literature, but no one in the published scientific debate disputes the functional conclusion. These eyes detect large approaching objects via bioluminescent disturbance at distances that provide meaningful time to react. The ROV's lights, white and bright, pointed forward into total darkness, aren't invisible to an eye calibrated to detect dim biological glows at over 100 meters. An adult colossal squid at 1,500 meters that detects an approaching remotely operated vehicle at 80 or 100 meters has time to descend below camera range before the ROV closes the distance. The deep Southern Ocean is three-dimensional in a way that makes descend or retreat always available. There is always somewhere else to go. The juvenile filmed in 2025 was at 600 meters, the boundary of the photic zone where some diffuse ambient light still exists and where the small animal hadn't yet developed the physiology or ammonia balance to drive it deeper. Adults reside in the mesopelagic and bathypelagic zones, 1,000 meters and below, in permanent darkness. That's where the 27-centimeter eye's advantage is greatest, and that's where cameras consistently fail.
In Wellington, New Zealand, at the Museum of New Zealand, Te Papa Tongarewa, there is a stainless steel tank topped with a concave acrylic lid. Inside it sits a 4.2-meter, 495-kilogram colossal squid, preserved in solution, in the Te Taiao Nature Exhibition. It's, as Te Papa describes it, the only complete colossal squid on public display anywhere in the world. The specimen was thawed in April 2008, 14 months after the catch. The examination team included Tsunemi Kubodera and AUT biologist Kat Bolstad. The thawing took place in a temporary tank built from plywood lined with polythene and filled with 6,000 liters of saline solution. Slow thaw under controlled salinity to prevent surface decomposition while the frozen core remained solid. When the endoscope reached the reproductive organs, the examination team discovered the specimen was female. Early press releases, including the fisheries minister's announcement in February, had described the animal as male. It wasn't. The ovaries contained thousands of eggs, unfertilized, in large ovaries the team encountered well into the dissection. Te Papa now holds 3 colossal squid specimens in total: the 2007 display animal, the 2003 animal caught by the same vessel, and the 2014 specimen, all female, all caught by the San Aspiring on Antarctic toothfish longlines, all accidental catches from a commercial fishery targeting a different species entirely. Not one of the 3 was the target of any research expedition. Not one was caught by any scientific vessel. No mature male colossal squid has ever been collected or scientifically studied. Not one. We know males exist, the species reproduces, the females have eggs, but we have never seen one. The reproductive biology of this species remains, at the current state of knowledge, inference built on related cranchiid species and the anatomical evidence of the female specimen's reproductive organs. How colossal squid mate, at what depth, in what season,
at pressures hundreds of times greater than at the sea surface, in water that sits below 0 Celsius, is a question the science has never approached directly because it has never had access to the materials from which to build an answer. On March 9, 2025, 100 years to the year after the species was formally described, ROV Sebastian deployed from the Schmidt Ocean Institute's research vessel Falkor during the Ocean Census Go South expedition near the South Sandwich Islands, recorded footage of a colossal squid at 600 meters depth. The animal was 30 centimeters long. The footage was reviewed by Dr. Kat Bolstad, an independent cephalopod expert, who confirmed the identification based on the hooks along the animal's arms, the feature that distinguishes Mesonicoteuthis hamiltoni from visually similar glass squids like Galiteuthis glacialis. The announcement came on April 15, 2025. It's exciting to see the first in situ footage of a juvenile colossal and humbling to think that they have no idea that humans exist, Bolstad said. For 100 years we have mainly encountered them as prey remains in whale and seabird stomachs and as predators of harvested toothfish. That juvenile, at 600 meters, near the South Sandwich Islands, is the complete confirmed visual record of this species living freely in its natural environment. One 30-centimeter infant, not an adult, not the Ross Sea, not 1,500 meters. Every adult colossal squid that has ever come within human reach arrived in the same way, on a commercial fishing line, grabbing the wrong fish, dying from the pressure change on the way up. Kerry Walton, Tipapa's curator of invertebrates, describes visitors encountering the display specimen as standing face to face with a creature that most scientists only dream of seeing. The reaction isn't sentimentality about big animals. It comes from standing in front of a 4.2-meter preserved squid, looking at the 27-centimeter eyes, the hooks along the arms, the massive mantle tube, and recognizing that this tank holds essentially everything physical science has managed to obtain from the largest living invertebrate. One adult on display, 2 more in storage, 3 intact animals, all female, all from the same fishing vessel, all accidents. The species was described in 1925 from 2 pieces of arm inside a dead whale. 100 years later, the best live footage we hold is of a 30-centimeter infant near the surface. Between those 2 facts, science built the following. The beak counts in whale stomachs establish that adults exist in large enough numbers to represent 77% of the biomass in an apex predator's diet across an entire ocean basin. The metabolic studies establish that a 500-kilogram animal survives on 30 grams of prey per day and waits rather than chases. The optical modeling establishes that eyes 27 centimeters across can detect a 50-ton predator by its bioluminescent wake at 120 meters in total darkness. The anatomy establishes rotating hooks on the tentacle clubs that hold prey through its own struggle. The beak size analysis from whale stomachs establishes that the 495-kilogram animal isn't the largest individual alive. Animals with beaks, implying masses of 600 to 700 kilograms, have been processed through whale digestive systems and left behind only the part that doesn't dissolve. None of that has been seen directly. The fight between the half-ton ambush predator and the largest toothed predator on Earth is happening right now, in the dark, at 1,500 meters, in water below 0 Celsius, beneath ice that covers most of this sea for most of the year. The evidence of the fight is everywhere. The fight itself has never had a witness. The colossal squid detects approaching light at over 100 meters distance. It lives in operational conditions that reduce vehicle battery performance and constrain deployment windows. It inhabits the southernmost, most ice-locked, most logistically hostile sea on Earth. Its metabolic rate suggests it's in no hurry, ever. It can drift deeper and wait for whatever approached to give up and leave. After a century of fragments, 3 accidental catches, decades of whale stomach analysis, and now one 30-centimeter juvenile on video, the colossal squid remains fundamentally outside the frame. Not because the effort hasn't been made, Because the animal was built for a world that cameras haven't figured out how to enter on the animal's own terms. And because the animal's own biology ensures it sees the cameras coming first. The harshest end of the earth is still keeping its largest secret. Somewhere below 1,500 meters in the Southern Ocean, in water that would kill most things that tried to survive it, the fight that no one has ever filmed is still happening.